Whiskey Vault.
I'm Daniel.
I'm Rex. This is a whiskey that is called Midnight Moon Whiskey.
And that's from J. Merritt.
J. Merritt, you magnificent bastard.
I'm not sure about this one.
All
So
right,
this is
all right. American whiskey. No
Yeah.
type of category specific.
distilled in Indiana.
Yeah.
Aged at least 6 months.
Yeah, they're pretty proud of this oak cask.
It's a blend. Here's what's interesting about this, though.
Yes.
It's a blend, right? That's why it's called American whiskey. Yeah. It's a blend of bourbon, I'm assuming MGP, and light whiskey.
Hold on. Why assuming MGP?
Because it says distilled in Indiana,
Okay.
right? A blend of bourbon and light whiskey.
Hold on.
Now, light whiskey
Beep, beep, beep.
is when you distill a bourbon mash bill or a whiskey mash bill.
Right.
It could be corn only, anyway. And you don't go as high as vodka, but you go higher than the legal amount for bourbon, rye, or malt.
Sure.
Right? So between 120, or between 160 and 190.
Yeah.
Right? Over 190, you're into vodkas.
Right.
So it's a category called light whiskey that showed up in the 80s to compete with when the whiskey makers wanted to try to compete with vodka becoming popular.
Yeah.
And they wanted to have a whiskey that appealed to vodka drinkers.
How can we make whiskey with less flavor?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Now, in our experience, there's not a lot of light whiskeys on the shelf.
No.
And in our experience, you usually get, as you would expect, fewer flavors, less rich flavors, and the flavors that you get are going to be the very common sweet flavors like vanillas.
Yeah, and they're shinier. They tend, in my experience of what I've tried, tends to have this sort of metallic-y sugar note.
And it doesn't even necessarily have to do with age. You and I tried a 13-year-old light whiskey.
Yeah.
Tasted like a thin vanilla.
Yes, like a watered-down vanilla wafer beverage.
In a barrel for 13 freaking years, like a thin vanilla.
Now, this is blended with bourbon. I'm actually really curious about this because I've thought about this. What happens if you take a light whiskey for just for the base, and then you add bourbon to round out the mid palate that's missing in light whiskey?
Okay.
And I think we're about to find out.
So it's not like adding vodka to bourbon, because you can imagine what that turns into, and you would be right. But this is a light whiskey. There's like, again, you're getting the shininess. It's like a fresh, creamy vanilla.
Yeah, but there's a funk.
Is it a funk or is that a citrus?
It might be citrus
Yeah.
lemon of all things.
I think a creamy vanilla and a citrus lemon there.
I've gotten orange before in things, but I've never gotten outright lemon.
Yep. That is.
Wow, this is weird.
Yeah. I'm not put off.
I think it's the light whiskey that's obviously it's making.
You know what? This kind of tastes like not halfway between a bourbon and a gin, but like a third of the way between a bourbon and a gin, with that citrus note there.
Yeah. So when we tried some of the gins that MGP had to offer, they had one that was specifically citrus oriented.
Yeah.
And it's that direction. Oh,
It's more grainy than I was expecting.
yeah.
You get the actual character of
I kind of like that actually.
whiskey grain.
It's weird, but it's not any whiskey I've ever tried before.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't fall into grain whiskey. It doesn't fall into bourbon or rye. It's
I'd say the core of this thing is that grainy, that agricultural grainy character.
Yeah.
With like a bright, shiny sweetness wrapped all around it.
yeah. It's like if lemon pledge instead of actual lemons.
Yeah, but
like a cleaning lemon.
I think that wrapping of that bright sweetness, absolutely expecting that, not expecting that core of like straight up agricultural grain, almost like a granola, but I think a granola would probably have more like a honey character to it. So that's not really honey.
I'm trying to find the proof. 90 proof. So let's add a little water and see. Now, here's the thing. Water mostly splits out the heavier oils in a whiskey, among other things. I don't anticipate there's a lot of heavy oils in this,
Right.
Because they use light whiskey in the blend.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see if water even does anything at all.
So I'm going to tell you right now. So far, not in love with it.
No.
Right?
Don't dislike it. Like, I've had beer versions or whiskeys that I'm like, oh, no.
It's not...
This is just, I don't like it.
It's not unpleasant. It's underwhelming.
Yeah.
But there is that one note that is, it's a little surprising. But it's not like, wow, this was really an unexpected, amazing thing. No, it's not. But, yeah, it definitely had whiskeys that I enjoy a lot less. But I just don't really like it that much to get, worked up about it. Did water change anything?
It did.
Okay.
I actually improved it. I don't know if it would be that way if it settled, but I like it better
It brought
now.
out more of the grain character.
Yeah, it brought out more of the complexity of the whiskey and,
Right.
and subdued some of those overly shiny sugars.
I think tasting this in a vacuum without side-by-side comparisons, this is one of the moments where you could, it's a nice grain and we're teasing it out a little bit.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, if we put something next to this that we know we really enjoyed,
It wouldn't even come close.
it would, this would be no comparison. It'd be like, I don't even want to think about this one.
We don't even
I think
have-
tasting it in a vacuum, though,
I don't think we even have a light whiskey in here right now anymore.
right. Huh, I wonder what was the motivation for the decision to experiment with the light whiskey.
Here's what we're going to compare it with. You ready?
Right.
Kessler's American Blended Whiskey. The most popular.
I said something we really like.
No. This is made in a similar way.
Okay.
It's not light whiskey. I think it's actually neutral grain spirit
Okay.
blended in, which is even higher than light. It's
Right.
vodka.
That's
right.
Yeah, basically.
But it's blended with 2-year-old bourbon, and this is much younger.
Oh.
Right?
Okay. So the Midnight Moon, younger bourbon with
Right.
the light whiskey though, which is still
Right.
technically a whiskey.
Older
Or
bourbon-
older bourbon with just straight up vodka.
With vodka.
Right. Okay, that's actually a good comparison.
Right?
Yeah. Good on you. All right.
Okay. So, hey, Kessler's, the most commonly purchased whiskey in America.
Is it number one or is it like surprisingly high? We did an episode on the Whiskey Tribe channel talking about the
It was just
20
surprisingly high.
20 most popular whiskeys in the U.S. according to sales, according to what people are actually buying. This was really high on the list.
Huh.
Brandon will link it up here. Thanks, Brandon. Totally going to remember to do that.
This is, and remove all of the malty, grainy notes from the American, and you get Kessler's. Or not malty, but all the grainy notes you're talking about.
Yeah, you take that core grain out.
And you strip it
And
out
then-
and you get Kessler's.
And then there's a little bit more of a like candied caramel
Yeah.
in the Kesslers. I think it's from the little bit more age on that bourbon.
But hey,
But I would actually put these on par with each other.
I was gonna say exactly the
Yeah.
same thing. Like these are the same quality,
Right.
Of or not quality. That's the wrong word. These are the same taste profile direction that I don't really prefer. They fall into the same category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we got Jimmy Leg. Freaking Blair. They probably should have chill filtered it, said Daniel Whittington. I'd like you to slap yourself in the face for uttering these words. This was on the Rare Whiskey Friday.
Yeah, that was on that one that was like at 40 something. It was already cloudy.
Yeah.
And I said because this is one of those moments
Well,
when you might want to chill filter.
For the
Yeah.
mass consumer out there.
Yes.
Whiskey nerds will know there's nothing wrong with a cloudy whiskey.
Right.
But
And I think was it Diamond State?
if you've got, a lot of people that are just curious locals wandering in and they see something cloudy, they're going to talk themselves out of it.
I don't remember which one it was, but it was
Buzzard's Roost Straight Rye episode. This was Fat Trumpet 2. I think you're supposed to keep adding more and more varies to small batch until your entire distillery collapses into its own black hole of pretentiousness.
I just liked that sentence.
Yeah. Very, very, very,
very small batch.
How big's the batch?
It's
right
very,
here, sir.
yeah, it's so small batch.
It's the batch.
We serve it out of the palm of our master distiller.
I think Deb would have something to say about that. It's just MBs coming up.
Yeah, like kittens. All right. This Friday begins Rare Whiskey Friday.
Yes.
I mean, not sorry.
Yeah.
This Friday begins Dry Week,
Yes.
which is January 31st at noon, and it continues all the way through the following Friday at noon, which is February 7th. This is the once a quarter week where we take a break from alcohol, check in to see where we're at, make sure that we don't have any dependency issues, reset our palates, and take a break from vault content for a week.
Yep.
And spend a little more time in the social medias. And then at the end of it, if you completed Dry Week with us, which means you abstained from alcohol from that noon to that noon,
We will present the link for the Whiskey Challengers. They can add their name and they will have joined us in this drinking not whiskey week. What are you going to drink? You usually go
Tea.
for tea. He's a tea guy.
I explore new teas.
I go for the smoothies, which you hate.
I hate
You don't like the
smoothies. Yeah,
smoothies.
yeah.
This is why you're dead inside. Here's to fighting, stealing, and drinking.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. If you fight me, I fight for a friend.
You steal me, you steal your liver.
And if you drink, may you drink with us.